it's everyone. Get started. I know, right? Can someone let me know if you can hear us okay online? Okay, so it's just.
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect, thank you. Good morning, thanks for being here today. If you're joining us on Zoom this morning, will you please do your introduction in the chat for me? It's important that I have your first and last name and if you're like, if you're associated with the HOA or an agency, let me know. And we'll start with introductions in the room. You want to start?
Jeff Fuller, Fire Marshal, Sisters Camp Sherman Fires.
Whitey, the Parks and Project Wildfire Neighborhood Coalition.
Lane Knowles, Homeowner Association.
Jim Overlander, West Side resident.
Patty Gentilomo, Sun River Owners Association.
Patty Dare, Deschutes County Commissioner.
Monty Damarel, Newberry Regional Partnership.
Gary Marshall, Chiefs County Fire District 2. Grant Solich, General Contractor, Brandon Management Services.
Robin Church, Three Pines HOA, Summit West Neighborhood District Emergency Preparedness Chair and Secretary of Project Wildfire Neighborhood Coalition.
Lon Eve, I'm with the Firewise for Aubrey Butte, and I co-chair the Project Wildfire Neighborhood Coalition.
Kevin Moriarty, Deschutes County Forester.
Greg Bryant, Sugar Woods.
Lauren Street, Deschutes County Natural Resources Specialist.
Good morning, Melissa Steele, Fire Inspector, Bend Fire and Rescue.
All right, and Corinne Heiner, Deschutes County Fire Deputy Communities Coordinator. Once again, if you're just joining us online, please do your introduction in the chat for me. And so we'll start, excuse me, the announcements. Kevin, do you have anything you want to start with?
Yeah, so I guess the big one for grants right now is our bin rental program. And so essentially that is a program we did last year where we were able to work with the two major vendors, Cascade Disposal and Republic Services in Deschutes County, and set up agreements with them and provide that service free of charge to communities. And so we ran that as a pilot last year. We're going to run that as a full-blown application this year. If you do have communities interested in that, if you're already using bins to some extent, you already kind of have the capacity for it, it'd be a great program for you. That is on our natural resources webpage. There's a tab on the left-hand side where you can access that grant application. We also did send out a press release last week on it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Lauren Street, who's helping with that application. We have $75,000 available, which will fund approximately 30 communities. The grant application will go to February 28th, and we will review applicants at that time. You can apply after that time, but I highly encourage you to apply before February 28th. Every grant we've had so far has exceeded the funding that we have available as far as the amount of people I've done. So that's probably the big updates right now. I was gonna look up we have our fire free dates too. You got them?
Yeah.
So we got our fire free dates.
All right, so
Want to just
yeah, the not landfill is going to be May 2nd through May 11th. They're open 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. And the transfer stations, Pine, Redmond, and Sisters are all going to be May 16th through May 24th. If you want to look at that, there are days that are open and everything, and the dates that'll be on the firefree.org website. They're also on the Deschutes County Natural Resource page. And Sun River is also doing a couple of days. They're doing May 2nd and May 3rd.
And then the only other update would be just our CWPPs. We're working through them right now. We've just kind of finished the public review period on our Upper Chute CWPP, so we're going to start finalizing that one. We've had our last meeting for our east-west CWPP, so that one's gonna, we're gonna start putting that together and open that up for public review, and then the sisters, Greater Sisters CWPP is also gonna start this year as well. So that will probably most likely start, the first meeting will be this spring. And if you are part of that community, I encourage you to participate in that plan. That's all the updates I have right now.
And if you just joined us, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sorry, my Megan, Central Oregon tree expert.
My name is Carl Jansen. I'm with Spring River Road Association.
Paula Simone, Central Oregon Community College.
That was it. Okay. So, and just a few more people that joined online, please do your introduction in the chat for me. And so today we have Melissa Steele. She's a fire inspector with the Fire and Rescue. She's gonna be doing a presentation for us on first 5 feet is what it's called, correct?
Own your zone.
Sorry.
First 5 feet.
First 5 feet.
You're there. Yep, that's it.
So if you're ready, I will.
Excellent. You know me in technology, so I'm going to share here. There we go. Coming up. Okay. So good morning. Again, my name is Melissa Steele. I put this Own Your Zone First 5 Feet campaign together because it came from a lot of questions and comments I had heard from homeowners that live in houses in close proximity of each other. You know, why is wildfire such a big deal? Why are people coming and talking about the WUI when I live in the center of town? And so, as we've seen with catastrophic WUI incidents, you could pick any of them, Paradise, Lahaina, LA, any of those, where you see this mass destruction of whole communities. That starts with one ember on one home. And once that home goes, it's in such close proximity that it tends to ignite the other home and so forth and so on. So the idea really is in these wildfires to keep your home from igniting with no suppression resources. That is the key. Like we said before, it takes 3 fire engines to put out 1 structure fire, and total we have 6 in the city of Bend. And that's to say that they aren't on cardiac arrests or medical calls or at the hospital. And so Own Your Zone really is about buying time with your structure. And so we put this together and we are going to talk about just that first 5 feet. And so the purpose and the objective of this program, this kind of campaign, if you will, is to educate homeowners on the science of structure-to-structure ignition, explain the term home hardening and the relationship to flying embers, why that's so important. We're going to inform why the immediate zone 0 to 5 is the most critical, okay? And then empower communities to take a stand against neighborhood devastation. So structure to structure ignition. So basically it's anywhere where fire can spread from a structure to another structure because of close proximity, radiant heat, and firebrands. Firebrands might be a new term, but that just is a fancy term for embers. And then any adjoining combustible materials. So the picture you're seeing is a picture in Bend. We had a fire that is actually in December of last year. And you can see that hot ashes were put into a combustible trash can, caught the fence on fire. That radiant heat was enough to spread to the other home. And then also the convective heat and the direct flame from the fence. The thing about this one is that there's no wind, right? No wind at all. Imagine that happening and that starting from whatever ignition source. And, you know, in 100-degree weather with a 30-mile-an-hour wind on it. Okay, so it can happen and it does happen quite frequently. We're gonna geek out a little bit on some fire behavior, fire science. And this is important so that when you're out in the community, we have a lot of leaders in this group. When you're out in your community, This is a way that you can explain and get buy-in for the rest of the people that might not want to participate or don't understand it yet. And so there's three types of heat transfer, and you've got convection right there on the top, and that's gonna be your hot gases, goes through the air current. Then you're gonna have conduction, which is direct contact, so something in the fire that is connected with that direct flame. And then your radiation are those electromagnetic waves that you feel, say, from a campfire. So those are the three types of heat transfer. When we're talking about wildland to structure, look at that, convection, conduction, radiation, same thing again, right? So the convection is the smoke column that's carrying those embers, okay? And then the conduction is the direct contact. So let's say you have a flammable tree right outside a window, that might be your direct contact or a wooden fence. And then radiation, your electromagnetic waves. So in the wildland going to structure, we see those three types of heat transfer. Again, in structure to structure, we see those again, convection, conduction, and radiation. So we've got the smoke column that can carry embers. We have direct contact with combustible materials, in this case, a wooden fence. And then radiation of the electromagnetic waves, the extreme radiant heat from close proximity. This is right here what leads to our WUI disasters, our wildland urban interface disasters. So I'm going to show a couple pictures here of structure to structure ignition. On the left, you'll see the campfire in Paradise. That's my neighborhood right there. Those homes, notice something about all those homes being gone. But what is the one thing that's standing and still beautiful and green? The trees, right? The trees got scorched, but where the trees got scorched were from the radiant heat from the structures. So the structures actually burnt down the wildland in this case. The fire was actually not even close to this location at the time. Embers came over, ignited one of the homes, and with the 70-mile-an-hour winds, we were off and running. The next one on the right is Waldo Canyon in Colorado. You can see in the center, right in here, that all of these homes are lost, right? Fire came from this area. Kind of interesting that these homes right here, right on that edge of the wildland, if you will, didn't burn down. All that means is that it didn't ignite. There wasn't anything in those near those homes that ignited, right? That's what we're trying to achieve with this campaign. Home hardening, another term I'm sure you're all familiar with, where vegetation management compliance and non-combustible building materials are used to resist the intrusion of flames or embers projected by a wildfire. So here you see when we talk about home hardening, the things that we're looking at, the different items we're looking at. And then you can see them in priority. So in red is high priority of what you'd want to get rid of or mitigate first, down to low priority. It's a real good graphic, I think, when people get overwhelmed of all the things they need to do for home hardening. They can take a look at this and say, okay, gutters are a high priority. That's something I can mitigate pretty easily by cleaning those out. Vents on top of the home, I can just make sure there's no dried needle accumulation on the backside of those and make sure that there's no huge open gaps. The roof is a high priority. We're not telling anyone to go ahead and change their roofs right now, but when it is time for you to get a new roof, we would like you to think about those Class A rated metal or asphalt shingle type roofs. So this is a good graphic. And what do you notice about the fence and the deck? What priority is that?
They're attached.
Exactly, they're attachments, so they're a high priority. Where do you think the 0 to 5 zone starts on this property if we were going to do an assessment? Anyone?
The deck and the fence.
Yep, exactly, Lon. So that attached fence is actually going to be part of the home. We're going to consider that part of the home. So we're going to start our 0 to 5 out from that fence going to the left, and then from the deck in the front of the house going to the right. All that means is that there should be no flammable vegetation near that deck or that fence to carry that heat. Here's another graph of looking at home hardening priorities. The highest priority with the lowest cost there, maintenance. If you live on the west side and you have lots of ponderosas, you're going to be cleaning gutters and your roofs and raking more often than not. And so that's just something to think about. The next one we show here is one I really like from Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety. This is with no fire suppression again. Remember, we want your home to be defensible without a fire engine. So that gives us time to get there. So on the left-hand side, you can see it's ordinary construction, a non-home hardened home. And embers caught the bark mulch first, then it ignited the deck, then the siding, and then direct radiant heat to the windows. And as you can see on the home hardened side, they had a rock type of mulch, if you will, and that was ignition resistant. Deck does not have enough heat to ignite, even though it still would. I want to point that out. Fire resistant siding, which was their fiber cement. And so there was no radiant heat on that side of the home. So with zero fire suppression, that home made it through the ember generator that they used to throw at that. So let's go into that first 5 feet. So focus on the closest. This is a home north of the Deschutes River Woods, so you can see all the pine needles and everything they have there. But they've done a really nice job in protecting the siding of the home. They've put a non-combustible ground cover, so they put some rock around the home. A lot of times people think it needs to be moonscaped, and it doesn't. We're not telling you to remove all your vegetation. We're telling you just to remove the combustible or the flammable material away from that first 5 feet. Some more options include non-combustible rock around the home, as you see on the left side. And then on the right, that's a picture of a home I did an assessment in Tethro, and they decided to put rock underneath their deck, which is a fabulous idea. So let's think of a fire in the area. Embers are hitting the side of that home, they're landing on the deck, and they're falling through into a non-combustible rock. That's exactly what we want to see. Some more examples, some fire resistant plants and non-combustible walkway in the backyard. Looks really nice there. And then if you're going to be more water wise, there's other ways to do that too. The non-combustible ground cover with some deciduous trees or plants. So all of that on the right side there is all of the fire resistant or non-combustible type materials. What we want to avoid in this area would be bark mulch up against siding, or any combination of bark mulch with flammable vegetation. We see this a lot driving around town. We see this a lot. What's another vulnerability, my assessors in here, to that house on the right? What is a vulnerability that we talk about when we do our assessments?
Ladder fuels.
Ladder fuels, and what else? Where's that radiant heat going from those bushes?
Leaves in the window.
The window is a big vulnerability right there. That looks possibly like vinyl. And so the vinyl casing of that window will melt, breaking the glass, falling out, and there's your vulnerability. And if you think that big flames can't come off of little bushes, I will show you a slide here in just a second. Some more that we want to avoid: arborvitae hedges against a wooden fence. That is a priority we want to address because those bushes are going to catch the embers, which are then going to put extreme radiant heat to that wooden fence. If there's any type of wind on that, it's going to push that fire towards a structure, burning through that wooden fence. A continuous fuel without a safety gap there on the right. I get that people like privacy, but this is a little extreme. You've got some conifers mixed with some deciduous, so you've got fire resistant and flammable together. I would recommend to this homeowner that they take out the conifers, the more combustible trees, and it would still look very nice. So here is what we talk about when we're talking about the amount of heat that can come off of just a juniper type arborvitae hedge. It's pretty impressive. It takes a lot of water. There's a lot of dead material inside of these plants, so they should not be within the first 5 feet.
Map, because people see how they can't get insurance and cancel out.
And on the next photo on the right, flammable vegetation aiding in fire spread. So those bushes in the front are just helping carry that fire from structure to structure. So what is this all about? This is working with your neighbors. And in the last 2 years, I have seen a complete 180 with the amount of people that are coming together. It is amazing. Many communities share this zone or it's very close to them. And so this just means that you share fire risk, right? I would love to challenge anyone to know the difference between a risk and a hazard. But the risk there is the things you have around your home, the flammable vegetation you have around the home. That's what we can mitigate. These people might live in a high hazard category area, but the risk is going to be that extreme or it's that flammable brush up against the side of the home. Many people are waiting for their neighbors to do their part first. How many of you have heard that? That I'm gonna wait till they do something. We need to lead by example to empower the rest. And that's exactly what I've been seeing in the last year, especially. It's pretty exciting. We want to harden our homes first. We want to do our 0 to 5 feet first. And then we can offer the neighbors education on how to do their home or their communities.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
You have, I have, some ponderosa pines that are about 100 feet high, 50 feet high.
Mhm.
I've limbed them all up to about 20 feet.
Yeah.
Would you consider that safe
That's a
or
great-
should I cut them down?
Great question. So the question was asked about ponderosas in close proximity of the structure itself. We are not advocating that anybody go and start cutting down these, legacy trees or these old ponderosas. What the draft language says in the fire code as of right now is that branches need to be 10 feet away from your eaves and your roof. And that is best practices right now. The other thing I would encourage is that you clear any type of ladder fuel underneath that and around the tree. The bole of the tree itself is quite fire resistant. Every year it grows another layer of bark. It becomes more fire resistant. As you see in all the prescribed burning that all the agencies are doing around here, driving down 97, you'll see all these burnt trees up to about 20 feet.
Right.
That is okay. These trees are going to thrive in that. It might look ugly for a couple of years, but the trees actually need that to keep going. So to answer your question, as long as you have gone at least that 10 feet or possibly more, it sounds like, then that is best practices right now. Yeah, absolutely. It's been known that ponderosas actually can shield embers from a home. They offer they also offer shade. So think about if your property is shaded versus a property that isn't, and embers land on a hot ground versus a cooler ground, they're gonna lose their energy in a shaded environment. So there are pluses to having those trees. The downfall there is the maintenance of the pine needles on the roof, in the gutters, raking. So
We
just
burn the needles that fall on the ground.
hopefully 30 feet at least away from the
Oh, yeah, easy.
Okay. Yeah, so that's what we talk about, the best practices for those ponderosas. Here's some resources. There's the Firewise program up there. This new bendoregon.gov wildfire/FAQs is a fabulous website. It talks about not just how to harden your home in defensible space, but other things that the city is doing in a wildfire, urban interface event. Very good information on evacuation there. That was a team effort put together by city and county. We've got our Deschutes County Rural District number 2. Get your notifications, DeschutesAlerts.org. That's going to be your reverse 911. And then the Project Wildfire Neighborhood Coalition. I see a whole bunch of names online that I haven't seen before, but I have talked to over the phone. And so thank you for coming to that. The more communities we can get to be a part of the neighborhood coalition itself, that's how we are going to get the word out of all this great information. You probably have heard in the news lately that Oregon has 229 Firewise communities in the state, but that Oregon just added 32. My numbers might be off a little bit. 32 Firewise communities in the last year, and most of them were on the east side of the Cascades. So that's pretty impressive.
I think Deschutes is number 2 in the nation, aren't we?
4.
Oh,
We're 4th. Deschutes County is 4th in the nation right now. That's pretty amazing.
Wow.
So again, wildfire is inevitable. That's where we live. Okay, we're not going to get rid of that hazard. That's always going to happen, especially with 80% of those being human starts. That's pretty sad. We need to get, people on board for prevention too. But wildfire is inevitable and community destruction is not. These are our mascots from our agencies working together. So, yeah. That is it. What questions do you have for me?
Is this available somewhere?
Yeah, and actually, I'm happy to put this, I already have it in a PDF form. I'm happy to email that to anybody that wants it. I'm also available to come and talk to your HOA or your neighborhood association. It might not be until June, since I'm booked out until then. I think I have 27 presentations scheduled already, so I'm happy to come do this. Another thing I would look at is our wildfire home ignition protection strategies workshops. There will be a press release coming out of when those are coming up. It's pretty much all the same information, but this right here is specific for first 5 feet. So if you live in a community that has houses close by, please get a hold of me if you want the PowerPoint or PDF to this, and I'm happy to share it.
We're,
Couple of
we're
questions.
one of the first Firewise communities about 20 years ago. You know, on a national basis, we haven't really applied to be Firewise since that time. Are we legal?
So with Firewise, you have to redo your certification, not recognition. Is it every 5 years? You have to come up with a new plan every 3, but the actual walkthrough and everything is 5 years. So if you're a Firewise community, you haven't done anything in years, technically you're not Firewise.
Not legal.
I don't like the word legal. Let's
Be
be honest.
considered inactive.
Inactive.
Apply every year.
Yeah, I know. I'm lazy.
Go ahead, sir.
Couple of questions.
Sure.
You see the difference between beauty bark and compost? Is compost combustible?
It is. Compost is still an organic material and can, you know, in heat have a chemical reaction where it can actually spontaneously combust.
So bigger question. So research is showing that 1/8 inch on screening is efficient for embers. But where are we at with the building code? I see construction today still going with 1/4 inch screening, 1/4 inch truss fence.
Yep. And
So where are we at in the national building code or state building code?
yeah,
And if you retrofit, are you causing a problem with the ventilation and dryness of your home?
those are great questions, and I'm not an expert with building codes. And so what I can do is give you our contact for that. What I know is that the building codes are in the works. So when the building code, when the WUBI code and building code are together, finally, all new construction, whatever date that is, all new construction plus 1/3 renovations on a home, new renovations on a home are going to have to comply with that building code, which is going to say 1/8 inch.
So are there retrofit kits on the market to, just like you put in foam blocks?
That sounds like a new business venture for
Well, I
somebody.
thought.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so what we're saying right now, best practices, you can buy that in a roll, right? People are cutting it themselves and just fixing it, adhering it right over the top of their 1/4 inch at the moment. I know there are some people out there that are really working on having that be just a business. And it's needed. There's a lot of people out there that can't get in those crawl spaces. And we're asking them to do this thing or best practices. It'd be great to have a company that does that. But as for now, all I know is people are doing them themselves.
So next question is, on a development code, there's been a lot of pressure to drop down to 2.5 feet to the property line. How do you even put a ladder next to your house?
It's gonna be very difficult for firefighters to get in between there.
So in the
100%.
building code, or they come back and say, hey, this increased density is asking for trouble?
I wouldn't be the one to answer that question. I have no idea what building code is saying on that.
I would think.
I can get you the person
The
though.
problem you got there is the building codes, if they're gonna make them closer together, then you got a bigger problem with one gets on fire, it's gonna be easier for the other, all the others to get on fire.
Yeah.
I don't
That's
think
the
the
whole
building codes are
Yeah.
going further away,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you got.
And that's a
Building
whole nother, that's a whole nother charge, right? A whole nother campaign over on this way. What we're talking about right now is just to do your part at doing what you can, best practices. That we're in like the infancy stages of all this. California and Washington, they're already way ahead of us. We need to get this. We are starting the neighborhood coalition 2 years ago to get people involved. That's been huge. There's a big push with wooden fences in the city ordinance to get things changed. That's huge. I mean, we're in the infancy stages. So at the moment, the best practices of hardening your own home are great. When it comes to building, I really strongly suggest you talk to building officials about that.
So here's another one for you. I believe building code, if you're over 4,000 square feet, you have to have sprinkler systems for that home. How about putting a couple of heads out on the roof?
Problem with residential sprinklers is that we have ice cold freezing temperatures.
Oh, you get dry systems.
With still, that's one of the biggest challenges that we face in commercial construction right now in these cold times is dry and wet systems. If anyone else wants to speak on building code and sprinklers, please feel free. But again, that is gonna be another contact that I can get you to talk about that.
But then my house actually that I built in the top of the mountains in Malibu in '93 survived the fire, but I never left my house when the Santa Anas were blowing. And we turned on the sprinkler system, didn't even have smoke damage. But I was just showing Gary the picture of the house from the last fire. It actually survived without a fire truck added. It was a Mediterranean home. But I did hear one of the neighborhoods down the hill in '93 lost one home. And that home burned down because of the venting. It was a brand new home built. Fabulous fire hydrants everywhere in that community of 88 homes. This time, there are only 25 homes left. And I actually lost one of my friend's husbands, wouldn't live with her. He never dreamed that community, there were no firemen there, no fire trucks whatsoever, even though they did have the fire hydrants. But one of my good friends there had a pool pump and fire hoses, and he hadn't really been testing it. So he put a fire hydrant in front of his house. You know, this is Rick. Anyway, the next day when he came back, there was no water because of all the houses burning down, then the water is running down the street. So he has no water, but he did send me pictures of a product, a fire coat product that he put on the wood by his pool, and it stopped the burn. You have to coat it every 6-7 years. He owned a roofing business and he'd studied this, I don't know, fire coat number 100. I'm gonna find the name. I said it the other day in the meeting too, because I want people to know, if you can't immediately rip out your wooden fence, this is something that you can do in the interim. It wouldn't be, it would be better than doing nothing because wood definitely spreads the risk. But when you think that, there's only, 63 of those homes now burned to the ground, and they were incredibly well situated with fire hydrants and everything, that it's really, and some of the homes actually burned the next day. So you've got the backfire coming, and Rick was there. There's no water in his hydrant, but he used his pool water and put fires out in his neighborhood. So, but a couple of people still lost their house the next day. So it's something else that we have to think about.
There's a lot of products out there. I'll tell you, there's a lot of people, coming up with these things. The newest one I've seen for structure fires was this ball that if a room is on fire, you throw the ball in there and shut the door, and it's supposed to explode with dry chem and put out the room fire. I don't know. So lot of different things out there. It's expensive for these things. What if you took the time and the money and the effort to increase that 5 feet of non-combustibility? You put in a metal gate or a metal privacy screening attached to the home instead to give you that safety gap. Put your money into prevention and preparedness. Retardant is great, but retardant only works when it's wet. So in a wildfire, once it dries, fire burns right over it. So these are things I would not want to see people using these things when they're needing that time to evacuate either. So something to think about. If someone has a product they want to put on their fence every 7 years, go for it, try it. I'm still in the school of thought that prevention and preparedness is better money spent.
Well,
So,
my other friend, I know she didn't hardly take anything.
yeah.
I just know she didn't. I mean, I always pack up everything we had the fire down the road from us a couple years ago. And once I saw the fire, I moved my horses Sunday night because I just thought you can't be in a panic with, animals and trying to get everything moved. So yeah, people you have to live really prepared, If
you live in Central Oregon, you're always on a level 1 evacuation in the summer.
You gotta have your bag.
The way to think, we have to think that way because Wildfires are different. Okay, our forests are crowded, the fires are gonna be hot, the embers, when a house burns, it's all synthetic material, those embers are gonna be carried hot, high and far. Our fires are different than they were 100 years ago, and so we just have to be prepared for that. So thank you for that.
So Melissa, I was just gonna say, one thing you can do from a building perspective, we did it in our community, we changed our design guidelines to incorporate all best practices. Well, so, and it was written by a professional for our use. But any new home or any remodeled home has to comply now with the new home hardening requirements that we have for our building codes. So you can't wait for, we didn't wait for the state or the county to even to do something, we just did it ourselves. And so anybody that has an HOA and has some design guidelines can talk to their board or talk to somebody and consider whether they need to change their design guidelines.
But my house was built in 2005 here, and it actually has, most of those things are all incorporated. Whomever was building it really knew that that was important.
But that's rare.
That's
Really?
rare.
It is?
That's rare.
You know, I was trying to put something in the wall and I couldn't, like, no, it doesn't work.
Homes in Discovery West, which is a fire-wise community built on the northwest side of Bend. The selling point was that it was a fire-wise community, but they built with 1/4 inch screening on their vents.
Oh, well,
Oh.
that's the first thing you
Right.
should do. You know, that was my story before this whole development burned down, because I'm like telling people, at least get your screening done, get that done.
The screening is very important. The other thing that's very important is adequate evacuation routes. We have a new community going in on the northwest side of Bend called Taw Line. And they have evacuation routes to the south, but Skyline Ranch Road doesn't connect up to anything to the north. So that's not really ideal, and it would be helpful, I think, if the fire departments, in addition to just there being, an egress, but they really look at things from an evacuation standpoint as well. And I think that that's one of those citywide policies that needs to be addressed, evaluated, and reconsidered in terms of, how we're planning new developments. It goes beyond density.
Yes.
I just want to say that actually we're not the infancy. Shutes County was the leader in the state in 2000 after the 1990 Project Wildfire, 1996 Skeleton Fire. And Shutes County enacted an ordinance that required a permit for all roofs, and it had to be fire resistant roofs. But then we went to every city within Deschutes County, passed the same ordinance. So you can change building codes. There's certain things you can do within the building code. It has to start with our leaders asking for those changes. But we were able to do that because the roof is the most vulnerable part. We probably didn't take it as far as we should have. We should have said all dormers and projections on a roof. It should be built out of that same material, siding. But I think where we're going today, especially if the mapping that we see with ODF is going to be rescinded, if it is, I think that insurance companies are probably going to make that decision for you because it will require an inspection insurance company, and they're going to either say yes or no that you're going to get insurance. So now we're putting this emphasis on insurance companies to be our planners, to be our building code agencies when our elected officials won't take us to that point statewide.
Thank you. Well, the interesting thing in LA County, though, they always inspected you every year because of where I lived, both of my homes. And they gave you a checklist, and if you didn't do everything on the list, they would do it for you, and it would be costing you 4 times more. And we see how well that didn't work in the last fire, but it was something that they would do. And I just had Craig come and inspect my place because I have a few juniper trees left that I really desperately want to get rid of, and somebody else has to tell my husband that they need to go, right? So anyway, Craig came out and did an inspection and said, yes, this is what you should do. And Craig Letts from Tamarack. Anyway, I just really think that's important to get an opinion from somebody else, because I always want to be as safe as possible. Then somebody else just told me that I could put in a fire hydrant at my pond. So I'm thinking like, oh, and how much does that cost? So, they're all, but then who's going to run it? Because the pool pump will do 9,000 gallons an hour if you have the fire hoses. But the incredible thing, if you read the Wall Street Journal, recent article about how they saved the Getty Villa, their landscaping, they had a lot of moist landscaping. That, you know, it really does make a difference, what you're planning.
Oh, absolutely. And when I mentioned infancy earlier, what I'm meaning is the amount of individual homes getting inspected and this becoming a thing. I worked for CAL FIRE for 8 years, and when I was a 9-month employee, for 3 months, we just did LE 100 inspections, which was, we go to every single property. They don't get to say yes or no, you can come on my property. We just go. We do the assessment without them there, with or without them there. We write the notice of violation and we put it on their door. They've got 2 weeks to comply. If they have, you know, mobility issues or anything like that, there's programs for them. But if we come back in 2 weeks and if it's not done, it's a huge fine. And then they're fined again. And that has been happening for a really long time. There are 1,500 seasonal assessors that CAL FIRE employs. And so do I think we'll ever get there? I don't see that anytime soon. That's why it's so important to have the homeowners take the stand, the communities. Like you said, Lon, HOAs and the neighborhood associations have more teeth than I do right now. So we look to you guys to say, hey, you can do whatever you want in your HOA. These are best practices. We will train you to be assessors. Let's go. So, yeah.
The question. Okay. Craig, you want me to go ahead?
Yeah, hi everybody, can you hear me?
I hear you.
Can you hear me?
Is it Craig Letts?
Yeah.
Oh, hi Craig.
Hey, have you got me?
We can't hear you, Craig. I don't know if you're talking.
Oh, okay. All right, well, can you hear
We
me
can
now
see
if
you,
you can
but
see
we
me?
can't hear you.
Oh, dang it.
Jody says she can hear him.
Yeah, we can hear him online.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Well, I just wanted to make a correction. Robin, good morning.
All right.
Hold on. They can hear him online. We can't hear him here. I don't know.
Okay,
There you go.
all right. Have you got me now?
No. You want to write it in the chat? We
Yeah.
can't hear you over here.
Sorry, I'm sorry, Craig.
Or call in.
Elizabeth.
Yeah, I just had a question. I work for a company that manages HOAs and, we get a lot of requests to pull out your lawn and put in xeriscape. And one of the concerns I have is that I don't really understand, or I'm uncomfortable with the xeriscape plantings. And because a lot of the neighbors think that the people that are requesting it think that means that they don't have to water. Or they just water when the plants are getting established, but then they don't. And Patty was just saying something about the wet vegetation. What's your read on that? I mean, because the city's got a big push right now for that, for city, you know, water reduction.
Yeah, so water wise and fire wise are, you know, we have two different objectives. I'm all for saving water for sure, which by putting in a non-combustible surface that doesn't need water, you're also hardening your home and your property as well. I'm going to be sitting on that committee, kind of to help on the water-wise committee, just to see where they're at. So I will report back. I haven't had a meeting with them yet, but to hear their plans and see what they're doing and see just kind of how that all works together. But you did bring up a good point. When we talk about fire-resistant plants, any plant can dry out and become flammable, okay? The ones we're talking about usually have a flat leaf, a low resin. They don't smell very, you know, too strongly. It's the plants that have that aroma, the resin, the high chemical content. Those are the ones that are really going to burn. So keeping plants watered is definitely a thing, just like keeping our forest health, right? The trees aren't going to catch on fire if they're healthy. So just wanted to put that little plug out there for any plants you have around the home, whether they're fire resistant or not, need to be kept irrigated. And hands all over. Monty.
So, Robin and I attended the Wildfire Home Protection Strategies session last week. It was outstanding. It was 4 hours and it seemed like it could have been a lot longer. And one of the things they talked about in there was fire resistant plants. Amy Jo Detweiler from OSU Extension presented it, and they have a very good booklet on fire resistant plants that I would advise you to check into. I'd also advise you, if they do this, when you do this again, Melissa presented there and did an outstanding job. And I would say that if they do this again, I would highly recommend that you attend. It was very, very good.
Was that the one at Deschutes County Fairgrounds?
Yes, it
Yeah.
was.
We went the last year before, it was great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna find the QR code, and while you guys are talking, I'll put it up on the screen. if that
Real
works.
quick, it's great.
Yep.
If you put in the chat, that Robin mentioned that Discovery West does not have ventilation screen requirements. They actually do have 1/8 inch screen requirements for attic and foundation.
That's good. Somebody who lives there took a picture of hers and it was 1/4.
Wow.
So she has to retrofit hers.
So.
Oh, the builder might be filing code. Oh, I suppose that's, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Likely, I think.
Megan,
Yes, I was also at Melissa's class. That was great. I know that you said you were gonna hold more for realtors and a bunch of other people, which will be great because that's now a requirement for realtors as well. So, another question I had was a lot of our clients are, and I know this is a really touchy subject, but I just am trying to be more informed. The map that's out, a lot of our clients are getting served with letters either from the state. I'm guessing it's from the state, because you said the ones from the county aren't out yet.
You're talking about the high hazard category
Yeah.
from ODF?
Yeah, and they're within a timeline that they're giving our clients, you know, the street's gotta move, the common areas gotta be cleaned up, this and that. And so I'm just trying to be more informed on what to tell them as far as just trying to get them in as fast as we can to, you know, if it's louder free
I
reduction.
honestly don't even know the timeline. What is the timeline? Does it
Actually,
say
I
on
think,
there?
yeah, it's like a couple weeks, maybe 30 days.
Yeah, I didn't even read that.
Appeal is, there's 2 dates, either May 7th or May 10th.
Okay.
Somebody said the 7th and then the governor said the 10th. I don't actually see it on the front page on what the date to appeal your designation.
Okay.
Yeah. Didn't they put that on hold this week?
Well, you should still file your appeal, just to be careful, because there is other legislation, as I was explaining to Patty, that says if you are a high designated area, you can't do such and such and such. So there's other legislation in Salem right now, so you want to protect yourself.
But that date,
It's either
The-
May, yeah, it's either March 7th or the 10th. Friday is the 7th, so I'd say get yours in by Friday, the 10th.
Most of them have a date already on the letter that they're getting. I guess I'm more concerned with the letter in general.
Yeah, that-
I think that the letter's coming from out of Deschutes County. And I don't know if anyone's.
Go ahead.
So Megan, that's the appeal period that the
Okay.
date is for, so that's to appeal for the designation of being high, classified as high.
On the, where you're at on the map.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that, but for the defensible space code and home hardening code itself, there's
Yeah.
only a defensible draft right now.
Okay,
There's nothing official as far as a requirement.
okay, so the letters aren't coming from local, it's coming from
They're coming
higher.
from the Oregon State Fire.
That's what I thought,
Yeah.
because I think some of my clients are getting confused about it being from here.
Yeah, so Oregon Department of Forestry is the one who created the map, and
Okay,
then
right.
and in Senate Bill 762, it was required that Oregon State Fire Marshal basically draft and implement the codes.
Right, and I
That's
remember
what's happening right now.
we touched on that on our other meeting, I just couldn't remember.
Yeah.
And I've got several calls in the last month,
So there's,
several.
so there's no code requirement as of now.
Okay.
Only a letter.
Okay, thank you.
Megan, here's a copy of the appeal.
I'll look at it.
Yeah, I just want to show it to you.
So I put on the screen there, that is gonna be the 4-hour workshop that Monty was talking about. This is an interest form. So you'd scan the QR code. This will say that you're interested in a class. Once we get a certain amount of people, we'll put one on in an area. So for right now, I know we've got a lot of interest in the Prineville and Madras area, so we're getting ready to put one on in that region. But if we get more Bend or Redmond or whatever it may be, we'll put on a class for whoever needs it. So if you're interested, please sign up for that interest form. I'll leave that up there.
And that's where do you find that?
The QR code right there.
Right.
You just, that or the form, the little HTTPS website down below it is another one that you can go to. But if you just take a picture of that with your phone, the website will come up, the formal Google Forms will come up and you can complete that. Megan, and then- yep.
Sorry, I meant to ask you when we had the class the other day, I was trying to stick out around after, but I knew you were busy. The other class that we had talked about at the coalition meeting, where you hold to help people become essentially
Assessors?
Yes, yeah, when are you doing that class?
So that class, we put that out in October, the interest, it's tomorrow. It's full. We've got 50 people.
Good for you.
So 50 is our capacity. If you're interested, please, you can email me and I'll put you on the list, because I have had a cancellation this morning, and plugged someone else in, but 50's as big as we can get for that room that we're in right now. It is the only class we are putting on for 2025 because it's a special class. We've never done this before. But the need was there to get this out because of the, amount of people, requesting these assessments. However, we are going to record it. And so if the recording comes out good, we will put it on a YouTube and then we'll send out that link and anybody can find it and watch that class. But one class was all we had for the 3 agencies getting together. That was the only capacity we had. So that is tomorrow, and the people that are in it received a confirmation email last week. They were in it, so.
Just curious what time it was held, sorry.
Tomorrow's 6 p.m. Yes, back here.
What's your experience with the combustibility of all the plastic decking, like Trex? Does that take off? or-
It's Class A rated. All the seminars and things I've been to for this type of material is it does have a Class A rating, means it's not going to just, catch on fire. But like I said, any Class A just means, for 2 hours in a certain amount of, space that it's not going to combust for a direct flame, against it for that long. After that, it breaks down. It does have combustible materials in it, like petroleum and plastic. So if it's not going to be combustible like wood, you hold a flame to it and all of a sudden it starts, it's gonna be ignition resistant. But if you've got bushes all around that Trex decking, that's gonna put direct heat and it will melt. It will eventually melt and have a small little flame. There's YouTube videos on those burning, if you wanna see what they burn like. But yeah, they're great materials, but they definitely can't withstand, they're not fireproof. Nothing's fireproof except metal, dirt.
The Spring River Road District spent a significant amount of money on basically reducing the ladder fuel along our roads. We spent about probably around 20,000 out of our pocket, so to speak, but we went 7 feet. The road district has about 7 feet of property adjacent to the road itself, and that was about 3 miles. And it's not just the house itself, but you look at all the combustion material along the side of the roads. It's like a bomb. We've cleaned it up. That's one thing that we've done here
That's
recently,
excellent.
the last 2 years.
Yeah, cleaning up making those roads a little wider. Basically, if we had a fire in that area and we needed to use that as a holding line, we've eliminated the fuel there. We can hold the fire at those roads that have those treatments in place. So, that's excellent.
Just to give you
Thank you.
Melissa, one of the takeaways, a big takeaway that I got from that home protection strategies is what you said about homeowners can be their own assessors. And there's a very good form that's used in home assessments that's a checklist basically that people can use. I mean, granted, you may not know all the specifics and everything, but there's a lot of, you can take a look at your own home. And I think if you can encourage the people, at least do that.
What form?
Absolutely.
What form is that?
So that form is the Office of State Fire Marshal form. That is a self-assessment checklist and you can get it from their website.
This one?
That one right there.
That one?
And so that is just a self-assessment checklist. Some assessors are using those, as like an outline for them to remember the steps to take, but every assessment that I schedule, I encourage the homeowner to do that first before I get there, so that they take a little bit of ownership in that, and then we can kind of follow up with what we need to follow up with. But yes, people can assess their own properties. The concept is the same no matter what building it is. The code is gonna apply to dwelling areas only, but I would suggest that you do the same concepts around your shops, around your outbuildings and all those things as well. Yep. Thank you, Monty. How are we on time?
Okay, we're good. So about 10 minutes.
Okay. Again, my email, I've got some cards I can give you for those that don't have it. But most of you have my email. I've heard from every single one of you in this room almost. So you have my email. Feel free to reach out. Just know that, you know, there's only a few of us agency-wise that are doing these assessments. So we really depend on the leaders of the HOAs and the communities to help us out with that. The districts, the city districts we're getting with, Robin's been instrumental on that, helping us. So the word is out there. We had that perfect storm of the high hazard category map coming out, the letters being sent, and LA all in 1 week. All of 2024, I did 115 assessments, all in 2024, that was it. We're sitting at 400 people and it is still February. So now everybody's aware, and I'm not complaining of the load of the workload. I think this is what we needed to get people to open their eyes and take a stand. My goal is to, we're gonna have a fire, right? We're gonna have a fire one day and it's gonna threaten homes. My goal is that we are a success story moving forward. So, I mean, how cool would that be if fire comes through, but we didn't lose any homes because they were a fire-wise neighborhood? Like, we want to be the success story. So that's my goal, is to get all of Deschutes County fire-wise by the time I retire in like 2037 or something crazy like that. So we've got some time, but yeah, I'm really excited that you all are here and joining in that effort. So thank you.
I have a question though. What drives me crazy is people that stack their firewood like outside their house. And I'm like, no fire truck is gonna pull up and save your house with that ignition pile right there. What do you guys, I mean, that seems so simple to like move it.
It is simple. And so there's a thing called structure triage. So when we have a big WUI incident going where lots of homes are catching on fire, an engine will drive through, and if they've got time to throw combustibles off a deck, they will do that. They'll just throw it out in the grass. Keywords if they have time.
Right.
If the house is already fully involved, they're moving on to the next one. The goal is to do the greatest good for the greatest amount of people, right? And so it is as simple as just taking that hour or two right before summertime to move the wood pile back 30 feet away from the home. It's those little things that help us as firefighters be able to protect homes. Again, a standalone home is what we're looking for. A defensible standalone with no fire suppression.
A couple of years ago, or maybe longer, especially down in our area, the Pine Fire District did assessments on individual. They were going around and doing assessments, and basically why they were doing the assessments was to see which properties they could actually save or defend. And the word that I got, and I don't know how true this is that if they came to two houses and one has completely overgrown and the other one has a defensible space, they'll go to the defensible space one before they'll go to the house that's overgrown. Is that still the case?
I'm gonna say that's not untrue, but it's a game day decision. We don't know anything until it's actually happening. If we are going to try to save a home, any home that we can, but if it's not feasible for us to spend 10 minutes at a home, we're gonna move to the next one to get out ahead of the fire to stop it from going into the community more. So we're gonna drive by, and if there's little spot fires and bark mulch, we're gonna put those out as quick as we can and move on to the next one. But yes, if someone hasn't done their part, it's unsafe for the firefighters to go in there and try to make a stand. If you have easy access to the home, you've done your road clearing along your driveway, those are things we're looking at, because then we can actually back in, we can take a stand, and we can do the greatest good for that part of the community. So I'm not gonna say we just bump by every single home, but it's a game day decision, in the heat of the moment kind of thing. So, yeah.
What's your view of cement siding? We built our house about 30 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I think
We
it's,
have a cement siding on all sides.
it's a great material, anything that's non-combustible, but just don't be, don't have the false hope that, you know, your window might be your vulnerability. So the things you could do, like the cement siding, like the bushes away from underneath the windows, all that together in totality is how you're going to protect your home. So, keep adding those things. I think it's great that you have that.
Continuous improvement.
Continuous
That's-
improvement and
that's the
home
whole
hardening,
thing.
exactly.
I agree.
You could, I've seen many cement, fiber cement homes burned to the ground because their eaves caught on fire and it got underneath.
Oh, really?
In the soffit, in the closed soffits.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, yeah, it's not a false hope, but it is a great material and that's what we wanna see. The more we can get those, mitigations stacked on each other, the greater defense you're gonna have. It's like wearing your seatbelt, right?
Right,
It's not a guarantee that if you wear your seatbelt and you get in a crash that you're gonna make it,
right.
but you have the odds stacked in your favor.
The other observation is we had to evacuate our house, Spring River, because of the fires on the west side. That's an interesting challenge. What to bring when you have to evacuate the home?
Yep, and that's, attend one of these classes, we go over the go bag and all that, and maybe that can be a topic later on, we can talk about, I know Nathan's given that speech a couple times. But yes, if you want those resources and that information, please contact any one of us, you know, Ben Fire, Forest Service, ODF, we all have the exact same information to give you on what to pack and all that, so yeah. Pack it before, so you're not trying to remember.
Yeah, I tell you, you have to make decisions on what to bring.
Yeah,
We had 2 cars and they were full.
yeah. If
You
you
know?
make those decisions ahead of time,
It's a
you're
shock.
much more likely to be able to evacuate in a timely manner.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm working with Nathan on creating a packet for evacuation. Go back.
Excellent.
That should be done spring sometime. We're still in the process of working on the graphic design. It's gonna be a whole packet with everything you need. All right, do we have any other questions for Melissa before I move on?
Did Craig ever put something up in the chat?
Yeah, he was talking about Discovery West. too.
Okay. Oh, the difference.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing this.
Was there any other questions online before we move on to roundtable? No. So we're gonna go ahead and do a roundtable now. If you haven't been here for one of those, it's just where we go around and you give any updates from your agency or where you wish you were. So, happy.
Not much new to report. We're finishing up field work, getting ready for our spring projects. That includes lots of big greens and getting ready to bid the track areas or common area. Hopefully the weather will hold. That's it.
Yes, which weather do you want?
I know, exactly.
I know. You want the rain and the snow? I did find out from my friend in LA, it was called it's from Universal Fire Shield Company. And it's fire code number 100 that he was incredibly impressed with what it did and it actually saved his house. So anyway, yeah. Because the other houses on Volcano Street they were all eliminated.
Newberry Regional Partnership is in the final stages of creating a strategic plan. That should be coming out in a couple months probably. The other thing that we're going to be working on is it's in the design stage right now, is having a community-wide seminar workshop that will bring the communities, all the communities in South County together and learn about what I learned about on Friday and how to go about this. We're also trying to recruit home assessors. And so we're working on that. The Upper Deschutes River Communities is also involved in that. And so we're all working together to try and get that happen. And we're looking for grants. If anybody knows of any grants. Now Kevin has been very, very generous with his grants, so we're looking for more.
We're gonna go to Elizabeth. You want me to go?
Yeah, just recently I attended the Parks Board meeting and coordinated with the art committee, and one of the guys on the board is on the art committee, and he said that I'm going to Melissa's training tomorrow, and my husband is too. Who's recently retired, so I'm making him an assessor, but but the art committee said that they want to get trained as assessors, which I think is a fantastic idea.
Yeah, and please, once you have the training, feel free to train the trainer.
That's what I was gonna ask, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Again, all of this is all educational, right? These are educational presentations. So there's no legal anything, you know, about these. The only thing I ask is that you don't go on people's private property if they don't want you there. If they don't want an assessment, don't give them an assessment. And so that's the only thing. I think we can reach more people that way. So if you are comfortable with, you know, presenting and get with my presentation, I'm totally happy with that. So, yeah.
Cool. And then the other quick thing is, like I said, I work for a company that manages HOAs, and my supervisor's been a little resistant to spending a lot of time on this. Yesterday, she came to me and said that the codes are changing and she wants me to start educating our HOAs. So I was pretty thrilled about that with our to get them certified or in the program.
I don't know if everybody saw the press release, but for 2024, the amount of Firewise communities, Firewise sites in Oregon is 298.
98.
With Shutes County leading at 78, with Jackson County just behind us at 74. California is first in the nation with 800. But please remember, I know when I was the Firewise advisor for 9 states, one thing about Oregon, per capita, we are the leading in the nation by far per capita. You got to remember, California has 30 or 40 million people. We have 4.5. So we're doing far better than California, and we have less risk.
We had 35 when I was first elected in 2019. So yeah, really try to, you know, you've got to be personally responsible for your house, your property, and then you got to work on your neighbors.
So we
Thanks,
passed
Jared.
Jackson, it sounds like.
We passed Jackson. Yes.
Not that it's a competition.
Yeah.
Oh, but
Like most competitors.
There is one caveat to that though, and something that this group, we started pre-pandemic and we haven't done it since then. But we started a program, we was hoping it's going to go national and it didn't. There's a lot of other states that's interested in it, but it's called the 4-Star Firewise program. And we actually went out with assessors from the road. We had a checklist of 10 things we'd see from the road, and we'd get about 5 of us, 7 of us, and hit a Firewise site that might even have 200 homes, and we'd finish that up in a few hours, and we would grade them. And so they'd either be 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, 4-star. And that really helped firefighters, because one thing I found out going across the nation with Firewise sites and new communities is that the wildland firefighter and structural firefighters, mainly wildland, said they didn't believe in the Firewise program because out of 200 homes, you might only have 2 homes out of 200 that have done anything. So that really didn't do a lot for firefighters to know if that community was defendable or not. So I think it's a good program, and it might be something that we look at for the future of this organization to start that back up so we could put the stars back out on the signs and to show the public, show your own Firewise neighborhood. How well are you doing?
Gary, I'm going to DC the end of the month, and I'm actually supposed to be on a natural resources committee. So maybe can I pick up information about that? And yeah. You know, Congressman Westerman is the only forester in Congress with a degree. So yeah, it's really, that'll be the person I want to see.
Can I add to what Gary just said? Several years ago, when Carl was actively involved with the UDRC, we had a very similar program to that, and UDRC went to drove by every property in our area and rated them, just like what you're talking about. And I think I still have the map of how we went around and we rated all these different properties.
Yeah, you can do it from the street. You can't see behind the home.
No.
But it gives you a good idea how well the home's protected, and it also gives the community how well they're doing. And actually, we had community said, don't give us 4 stars, please don't. Because if you hit 4 stars, then people are going to say, you know, we've done enough. So they always want something to achieve too.
Give anybody.
We do have some 4 stars.
Can I make a comment? I'm really concerned about Lapine. That is a dysfunctional area. We've made a lot of improvements with with Spring River as well as the various communities that Monty and I are involved in. But Lapine, you got a major problem down there. There's communications that's needed. I know you have a wildfire protection plan for that Lapine area right now, but if you look at driving along the various roads down there, it's not incorporated. You have Lapine City, which is more metro area, that type of thing. But that Lapine needs help and motivation, you know, that type of thing. Anybody from Lapine here?
Carl, can I answer that?
You are.
You gotta stay
Oh,
on-
wow.
I
you
live
gotta stay
there.
on track, I'm sorry.
You do, wonderful.
But I don't work there, so I hear your concerns, and so I would
That's
say.
my observation
Yeah,
about the county.
absolutely. No, it's got some work to do for sure. And there's a lot of communities like UDRC and other ones there that are starting a lot of good work there. Communication is difficult. There's a lot of different ways to communicate down there, and I say we as the Central Oregon Prevention Co-op, which I'm part of, are looking at ways to get in to advertise, to market to all communities down there. So please reach out to their fire
Great
department.
people down there.
Yeah.
I'm actively involved in things down there. It's the community, the city of Lapine is just exploding. Fantastic.
I gotta get us back on track to roundtable. It was hot, Megan.
I guess the only thing to report on is people that wait until the summer to do lateral fuel reductions makes it harder. It's easier to do it now in the spring before you get to summer. It's actually better to trim your trees in the winter when it's stormy anyways. So, we get probably the most wanting to do lateral fuel reductions dead summer when it's already pretty busy. So if you know anybody that's looking to get that done, we're happy to do all of that right now. It's the best time of the year to do it.
So we were going for Firewise last year, but I had some things happen. So kind of dropped the ball on it because of some employment changes at the college. But picking it back up, got the application almost finished to send in. So yay for that.
So excited.
Yeah, so we'll be submitting that application.
Okay.
Sorry for the delay in that, but
Do we know if that'll be like the first campus?
we'll be in the United States, and wouldn't be the first one.
We'll be the
We'll be
second.
the second,
Okay.
but we are the first one in Oregon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
We're actually doing your two next in a couple weeks.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah. Yeah.
Sheriff Roundtable?
I'm gonna make a political statement, a reality check. If the game plan, for people on the west side is to evacuate east, that is not feasible. Any day of the week, there is nothing but gridlock. If you have to evacuate the schools, the sports, the facilities, the multifamily homes, you're gonna have a Lahaina gridlock. There's no question about it. So we gotta be honest with the citizens that evacuation will not work. You need to be defensive, you need to put in fire breaks. Again, if I gotta move, it'd be nice to take boxes of pictures, but the only way to move is on a bicycle to move east.
Well, a lot of times too.
That message isn't out there. Everyone's saying, get ready, get set, go. How are you gonna go?
If you get ready, that's when you better be going, if you have that.
Just coming across town
When it's getting.
with no get ready.
You get ready, you go.
I'm saying every day, at school hour, try to get down. you know, Portland's closed. When Newport was closed, Portland was the detour.
Yeah.
Well, did anyone coordinate their starting to trim trees for the power lines? So you have what traffic when it's supposed to be the detour.
City emergency management and county emergency management are in charge of evacuations, and I can give you both emails for you to contact.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I agree. We all agree.
But that message is not out over.
So our message is fire prevention and preparedness, and that's what we're doing. As far as that other stuff, we need to take the concerns to them so that it's at both places. And I agree with you.
But see, when I was first elected, I went to Tollgate and
Traffic
Sundance and
and
all those areas because critically, there aren't enough options in those communities to get out. So, you know, always have to be looking and you can't just, you know, rest on what you've done. You've got to make sure that that gate is still open, all the back ways out.
So in 46 Road, geez, it's still gated.
Carl, did you have anything to share for Ron?
I'm fine. I made my comments.
Carl.
Carl's done.
Just that some of my clients, customers, you know, as a business owner here, they've been calling and they've been getting the letters from the state about, you know, they need to create flexible space. And so I'm trying to provide that along with the assessments and just get as much knowledge as I can. So people are aware. They're getting, I'm getting calls. So,
What's your business? What's the business?
I'm a general contractor. Yeah. We do landscaping as well.
So in the Summit West Neighborhood District, two other colleagues, Lauren Summersday and Scotty Neal and I are reaching out to neighborhoods, and encouraging them to become firewise, and happy to say that there's been a lot of interest. We've had conversations with 30 people in the last 6 weeks. And one community has already committed to becoming a firewise and another is on the bubble. So we're making some progress.
So you heard us talk about the Project Wildfire Neighborhood Coalition a couple times. Elizabeth is a co-chair. Robin's a secretary. I'm a co-chair as well. We meet every month, and I'd like to invite anybody in here or online that would like to come to our meeting. We meet this Thursday. We meet every Thursday of the month, with a couple of exceptions, but so it's from 2 o'clock to 3:30 at the road department building on 27th. And we're all about trying to recruit, educate, and mentor communities that either are firewise and want to become more firewise, or want to become firewise and need some help on how to get started, or we share information, we share content. It's made up of a lot of advisors like Melissa, Corinne, Kevin, others in this room, ODF, State Fire Marshal, and then a lot of communities that either are just getting started or some that are pretty mature and can really help people kind of figure out and not have to recreate the wheel. So anybody that's interested in coming, you can come physically. We also have a Zoom connection like this meeting. So just keep that in mind. Every month, if you want to come, and it's really built up quite a bit in the last, I think we started early last year, right?
Yep.
April or something of 24, and I don't know how many members we have now, but it's a lot when you look at the list. So
It's really.
it really is an hour and a half well spent.
Third Tuesday at what time?
Thursday.
Thursday.
Oh, Thursday.
2 o'clock to 3:30.
2 o'clock to 3:30.
And it's this Thursday. The actual address is 61150 Southeast 27th.
Great room there too, by the way.
Yeah.
Our number of sessions there. That's a great place to go have a meeting.
Eventually we'll outgrow it. It's full.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say you're
Yeah.
probably-
It's the idea.
Yeah.
It really is, huh?
Yeah.
You go to most of them?
Yeah, it's always the same week as this one, just on Thursday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, sometimes
Most of
it's,
the time.
yeah,
Yeah,
sometimes
most of
we'll
the
have it
time.
Thursday, or it's just Tuesday, depending on what day of the month.
Just a couple more things on some of the stuff people are talking about. You know, Okay, we got a lot of sidecar.
Hung out with you down.
See ya, Monty.
Typical.
Hey, guys. All right, so, I kind of just wanted a little bit quiet because I wanted to at least speak to the issues we have in La Pine. We are doing a very concerted effort on trying to combat some of the fire risks we have in La Pine right now. The Newbury Partnership is leading the way. They've been putting a lot of meetings together, a lot of local folks, including City of La Pine Fire, myself, and other interested strategic people with that process. We are applying for a federal grant right now that's solely going to be based down in La Pine. It's called the Community Wildfire Defense Grant.
That's great.
We're looking at sweat equity projects, really focusing on road districts, all those unincorporated areas. We're trying to figure out a way to get a prevention coordinator down there through grant funding. So we are doing some concerted work down there. There's also a safety committee that's working together right now as well. That's looking at some of the federal lands and some of the issues we're having with fire starts on federal lands too. So there is a lot of work down there, and I'd encourage you, if you have any questions, to engage with those groups or come to us directly and we can get you involved. So of that on La Pine. On the evacuations, also there is a lot of work being done on evacuations. Nathan Garrity, if most of you know him in this room, spends a lot of time figuring out evacuations in Deschutes County. And the idea is, on the west side of Bend, you are probably gonna have to leave early. If you need to evacuate, you should not be evacuating if you're at a level 3. You should be evacuating if you're a 1 or a 2. Because you're right, we can't get everyone onto these roads at the same time. Just like we can't run all the fire hydrants at the same time. These are not feasible solutions. So we have to come up with ways to figure that out. If there is a fire like the Little Lava Fire, it was a really good example. They evacuated Sun River. It wasn't even close to Sun River, but they evacuated because they knew the anticipation if the winds were to pick up, that the potential of that community, causing traffic jams was high. And so getting those evacuations out early, that's what we try to distill in these groups. So Nathan will probably most likely speak at either the coalition meetings this year or at Project Wildfire itself. I highly encourage folks to be participants.
Good to hear. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, Greg Bryant, she's very good, and I just thought I'd say Ella Gaines, she's got her own DRW Firewise group along the river that she's entered the fire with Firewise. So over 100 homes there.
Yeah. What's the name of it?
DRW.
It's a DRW.
Yeah. She just did that like 2 weeks ago or something.
Okay,
finally.
She'll be at my assessor training tomorrow.
Yeah.
She'll be there, yeah.
Lauren Street, Natural Resources Specialist for the county. I think Kevin covered most of it, and I just want to reiterate the fire-free dates are on the Natural Resources website as well as the Ben rental program. And so that program will be, the applications will be closing at the end of the month. So if you know of folks, please feel free to send that out to neighborhoods that might be beneficial for, because that application will be wrapping up at the end of the month.
I think I've said enough today. I don't really have anything else. Thank you for coming to this presentation. I was selected 1 out of 10 in the nation to present this Glendale, Arizona in May at the Community Risk Reduction Leadership Conference. So super excited to put Bend on the map for this type of, preparation, preparedness, prevention. Excited to do that, but I'm always up for feedback. So if you guys have feedback on either, like you said, your concerns, the the PowerPoint itself, you've got good pictures of the work you've been doing out in your communities, befores and afters especially, please send them my way. And we got to get that word out there of all the great work that's being done, because there's a lot.
Can I make one comment regarding the Forest Service? They've done a fantastic job around our area as far as thinning out and burning the low, that hanging branches. I mean, on the way to Sun River and on the way to La Pine. just on 97, fantastic.
Absolutely. I was just gonna share about Fire Free, Lauren, beat me to it. We are also, the firefree.org website is also updated with those dates. And if you have any questions about that or need flyers, I'm gonna be getting a lot of flyers printed. So if you want flyers to share with your communities, email me directly and I can get those to you. I don't have them yet. I'm ordering them this week though, so I should have them pretty quickly. And a press release is gonna be going out as well, so I can share that digitally too. And, does anyone online have anything? So a couple more minutes.
Hi, this is Carolyn Dahlberg from Tollgate.
Article, that in the chat.
Yeah, I shared a article in the chat.
Sorry, this is Carolyn Dahlberg from Tollgate. I'm on the Firewise Committee.
If no one else has anything online, then I think that we are done. And thank you again, Melissa, for sharing. Really great discussion today, everyone. I'm sorry I had to keep us on track. It's hard to get through everyone for roundtable, so I try to speak in order so that everyone gets a chance. And yeah, so thanks for being here, and we'll see you guys next month.
Very good.
And I actually think Commissioner DeBonne is going to start transitioning to this meeting, but I just thought I had really relevant information today. That's why I'm here, because it is really close to my heart.
I know it is.
Yeah, well,
Good to see it again.
I mean, oh my gosh, I've lost so many friends lost their house. So many, and one of them, it was uninsured for 2 weeks. They barely got it insured, and I've been bugging the legislators about the Oregon Fair Plan. I'm still hearing really things that need to be improved upon that plan. You have to be, disallowed by 2 insurance companies before they'll consider you. I mean, and their limit is, it's 600,000. It was 300,000. That's really not enough for some of the homes in Bend. If State Farm or farmers, if they're pulling out. So they've got the fair plan, the Oregon Fair Plan has got to do a better job. Yeah. And please talk to your legislators about it, because I asked everybody in Salem the other day and nobody knew what the limit was. And all I did was have to Google it, and there it is popping up, 600,000. It was 300. So
Wow.
yeah, it doesn't end.
I'm with the USAA. I'm a vet.
So are we, but guess what? They wouldn't cover us when the fire went around our house in 93. We were supposed to be insured by them December. I go, everything's burned. We lost 1 tree. And they wouldn't cover us for 2 years. We had to go to the California Fair Plan.
Yeah.
Yes, really. So
Really?
and we don't want them pulling out, do we?
No.
So we got to do a really
No
good job,
way.
Carl. Yeah.
19%
of the homes that fell through that were for sale in California were because they couldn't get insurance. So.
Right. Well, the homes here are falling through with exorbitant insurance quotes, like 15,000 for their insurance. So
There was a
the buyers are bought.
news article this morning about that in Sisters. The guys have been trying to sell a house and had two sales fall through because the prospective buyers was way too expensive. 15 grand was one of the quotes.
And then one of the problems too is
15,000 a year for one of the quotes.
is older people, and their insurance is gonna be, it's gone up so much that they're not gonna be able to afford to stay in their home. And so that's like a whole another, and then the property taxes doubling or whatever they've done. So yeah, it's gonna be very challenging times.
Carolyn, Dahlberg shared in the chat, roundtable for Tollgate. A small group of volunteers are working with the maintenance crew on thinning, trimming, pruning, and common areas to mitigate fire risk.
Awesome. Carolyn does, they do a lot of work.
Is there anybody going to the International Association of Fire Chiefs Wildfire Conference in Kansas City? Anybody from this group?
The WUI?
Yeah, the WUI conference. It used to be in Reno. They changed it. To
Yeah, I
Kansas
saw
City.
that.
Yeah.
Probably
I'll be going, so
Oh, cool. I tried. They wouldn't let me go to Arizona and Kansas City.
That's the problem.
I had to pick.
So what would you pick, huh? Arizona?
Very good.
Well, Arizona's nice that time of year and there's a lot of pool, so, you know.
It's 70 degrees there, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks everyone. Hey, just a reminder, we have our steering committee meeting at 10 o'clock for steering committee members. Short break and then we're gonna have to do a reconvene. Yeah.